We are talking about what is happening with the Ever Given in the Suez Canal. This morning's shipping expert, Chris Long. He is a former commanding officer of the UK's Royal Navy. He's now Intelligence and Communications Director of the Neptune P2P Group, a maritime security specialist providing armed guards to ships passing through high-risk areas such as the Gulf of Aden. Chris, good morning. It's lovely to speak to you from the UK. Thank you for getting up so early and joining us.
Good morning, Brandy. It's great to be here, and thanks for asking us onto the show.
So where are we at the moment, Chris? How positive have yesterday's movements been?
Well, Brandy, the latest information I have from the Suez Canal is that the ship, they attempted to move the ship on the spring tide last night. It doesn't seem to have been very successful at this point. There was some movement yesterday. They moved the ship's head by 30 degrees, but that really won't help the situation very much. They've got one more attempt, I believe, tonight as the spring tides sort of wane, that they may be able to move it. But at the moment, it's not looking great.
What other options do rescuers have at the moment?
I think the next move would be to remove the containers from the vessel. There's talk that there's a large crane that's being moved around from Alexandria, should be there today. And then they'll put another ship alongside, and they will then try to move the containers from the Ever Given onto the other vessel.
We have heard that Shell and some others have started to divert tankers and ships around the Cape of Good Hope. Tell us how they'll be weighing up that decision.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. When do you decide to make that move? I think a lot will be. We decide in the next couple of hours. Shipping companies will think if they've got to wait for at least a week before the canal is open, they may as well bite the bullet and go back down and round the Cape of Good Hope. Ships that would be en route to Suez through the Mediterranean may turn around and come back down again round Cape of Good Hope. I think you're going to see that decision made very soon. Some ships and some companies have already done that. So it's a waiting game, really. And the estimates I've seen, if they don't move it on the high tide, is it could take up to 2 weeks to free her.
We had, a couple of days ago, 200 ships in that queue, if you like. There's now more than 300. The FT reporting yesterday that another 130 was set to join them this week. This might be a bit of a stupid question, Chris, but why would you join that jam?
Well, I think, the ships their transits are programmed in a long time in advance. They would be pinning their hopes that by the time they got there would have been some movement. The ship would have been freed. As I say, some ships, even 2 days ago, had decided to not go up the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea and had made that diversion. It's very, very much down to the individual companies, and again, like I say, it's a gamble, I think, for some of them. Do we go and wait and hopefully in a week's time it's free, or else do we add at least 12 days to our journey and decide to turn around and go back around the tip of Africa? It's very much down to the individual companies and their decision.
How easy is it for the ships that are in that bottleneck, that are waiting, to turn and move around the Cape of Good Hope? Is it like being a traffic jam that once you're in the queue, you're in the queue? How much movement do they have?
As far as anchorage, I mean, there's plenty of leeway. They'll make sure that ships are able to turn around. I think the decision for those ships is, do we take the risk? There is this additional element of risk to go back down through the Gulf of Aden and through the high-risk area for piracy, for example. So you are putting your ship, your crew at risk by going back. Some may wish to wait that out. They've already transited through that area, certainly coming up from the south. Again, this will be a decision for the ship's company, for the company's security officers to make.
You're a piracy expert. How real is the threat of piracy for the ships that do take that decision to go on the Cape of Good Hope?
Brandy, it's a real threat. You're probably aware that the piracy really was at its height between 2008 and 2012. At the moment, it's in a state of suppression. A combination of military action and private maritime security companies putting armed security teams on board vessels has suppressed piracy. The pirates are still there. They're still capable of mounting piracy operations, but it's opportunity that they don't have at the moment. But they may well see this as a great opportunity, with a lot of vessels maybe going to come back down through Suez through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait into the Gulf of Aden, and be tempted to take a shortcut around the tip of the Horn of Africa between Socotra Island and Puntland. It saves them 2 days sailing to do that, but it does put them at higher risk of piracy if they do so.
Will these ships, tankers and the rest of them, be equipped with the guards, the other safety measures that they need to sail through those waters?
Yeah, they certainly will. Companies like ourselves who provide those armed security teams, if they're coming back down Suez, they will pick up a team if they wish about midpoint in the Red Sea, and those guards will stay with them for the duration of their transit through the high-risk area for piracy, and they will get those teams will offload at one of our 4 departure points. Most likely, if they're going to go to Africa, that's going to be in the Comoros Islands in Moroni.
So what are we watching for now, Chris, over the next 24 hours? What should we be looking at?
Well, I'd say, Brandy, I think you're going to see a lot of decisions made today based on what the Egyptians tell us in the next few hours. If they've failed to move that vessel at what they saw as the optimum opportunity with the high tides, then ships, and this is my opinion, I think ships companies will bite the bullet and decide to add the extra 12 days just to get the commerce moving again. We're talking about $10 billion tied up in commerce either end of the Suez Canal, and they've got deadlines, and a lot of this commerce that's on the ships, is badly needed in Europe. A lot of it is for the motor industry, for example, where these spare parts for cars is needed very quickly. I think we'll see decisions today.
And Chris Long, Intelligence and Communications Director of the Neptune P2P Group, former Commanding Officer of the UK's Royal Navy, based here in Dubai for some time as well, was the officer commanding the United Kingdom maritime trade operations in the British Embassy out of Dubai, speaking to us about what is happening in Suez this morning. As I mentioned, the oil market seems bullish on that, seems to think that she could be out in as little as a couple of days, which is why Brent is falling this morning.